see if it starts. I never know when it's live. We're amateurs at this.
Complete amateurs.
I've done podcasts, but they're usually just vocal. They're not videos.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, we're live.
We're live. We are live.
And now.
What?
And now.
We're live. Everyday Audio is number 10.
Holla, number 10.
We got 10
it's
in
like
there.
the decade edition.
Yeah. 10
with Mr. Steve Stearns, the owner, guardian of headrest metering, and guitarist and the moonshine aficionado.
SQ's in the house.
Yeah, that's right.
A little bit of that, a little bit of this.
All that.
All of what you said minus 6.
Yeah.
How's it going?
What's going on, bud?
It's going pretty good. You know, it's a stressful time. We have finals in just a matter of days. So
yeah, no
on
kidding.
The way, and we've got almost 200 cars coming for Meca. So
that's awesome.
Jeez.
I'm one of them. I'm one of them, and trust me, mine is
stock sound quality and street 1.
No, trunk. I'm trunk this year.
Your trunk 1. All
yeah,
right.
trunk 1.
I get it mixed up.
I have no amps in the car right now. Nothing's hooked up. It's not playing. I got trouble. So
well, good luck with that.
That's like the motto of every sound guy that stood like a week before.
I know.
Yeah, and
that's not true.
And you say
I swear,
you say it's never going to happen.
Every year you're like, I'm going to be ready 6 months before finals and everything's going to be buttoned up. No, never happened.
Working good, let it go, man. You know, but you got to do what you got to do.
I know. I shouldn't have touched it. As soon as I got a thing playing, I shouldn't have touched it, but I've changed amps like 3 times since then.
Well, hope it's working out.
Yeah, me too. Me too. You know why? Because I refuse to move up in class until I win stock. So I'll be like stuck in stock purgatory in perpetuity until I win. So pass that along to your judges if they don't want me squatting in stock class.
Well, I think we're just gonna have to roll the dice on that.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? I'll just keep throwing money.
I think you'll be all right. You like doing it no matter what.
Oh, I do. I actually really like the challenge of stock class. It's super restrictive. And there's really not many that choices for head units, but I like the I have to have those restrictions. Otherwise, like my head goes crazy and I will just like spend insane amounts of money and just start tossing money at it. And
next thing you know, you're cutting your dashboard and you're in extreme
class.
And
I ain't got time for all that. I ain't got time for all
steel spacers in your door and stuff.
I shared no, what I shared Nick Wingate's post from Aggieland, all the prep that he did, and just to like, a glimpse into what goes into like a money round winning type vehicle. And just it's mind blowing. Like I barely had time to even read the post, let alone get into the prep that he does, you know what I mean? But you're used to that. Yeah, I mean, you have the best cars in the world, literally the best cars in the world, competing in SQL and Meca.
Thank you, and I believe we do. It's a big world, and our finals is our Meca world. So for all the cars in Meca that compete, that's our world. These are our champions for our club, and Meca is a club first. So we look at that, and they're competing in our club activities, and they're earning their credentials, and we're giving them something that they want and need, and they're giving us the opportunity to really showcase the sport, and not just them, but everybody that does it, and that is one of our goals, is to really showcase the sport.
That's right. Showcase music again. Let's make it about the music.
Well, it comes down to the music, and it comes down to the people, as far as having good shows, having good judges. It's not easy being cheesy, being a judge. It's being a judge is not easy, especially like a sound quality judge. I mean, you got to sit there and analyze music like nobody thinks that way. Normal, you just listen to the music and enjoy it. You don't think about tearing it all apart,
right? And what's funny is
pressure,
I'll get into my car and I'll start like listening, like how a judge is going to listen, and I'll forget like what I'm listening to and how beautiful the music is. You know what I mean? Like, just take it. Yeah, take a minute to enjoy what you're hearing. You know what I mean?
Right. But or sit in some of those high scoring cars, those 80 plus.
Oh my God! Cars. Yeah, when I get in those guys, when I get in those guys' cars, I don't think like a judge. I'm just listening,
it's
enjoying it, and
Mhm.
I mean, for those guys out there that have not heard like a legitimate 80+ point car, like
sound
you
quality.
are missing out. Like, expand your mind, man. Go to a Meca show, go to an IASCA show, and listen to some of these cars. It will,
Like anything
I'm not,
over 80, anything over 80 is like perfect almost.
no,
Not
well,
perfect,
it's out
but
of
like,
100, but
okay.
80 is like a legit, like a crazy benchmark, but I'm not tooting my own horn by any means, but at Louisiana State Finals, I tried to give as many demos as I could, and a couple of the guys sat in my car that haven't ever been in. Now, again, I'm quotating a legitimate SQ car. I'm not an 80 car, but they're like, dude, you just changed my life. And that's what I'm talking. I mean, that's the goal right there, dude. Nerds.
Right. Well, that's pretty much like what Meca wants to do, but we kind of take it from the systematic approach of learning to really use your own equipment. It's great to be able to pay a great tuner to do a great tune, but it's nice to know what they did and how they did it, so you can replicate that or start to do that yourself. And like what you're saying, how that was satisfying for you, the most satisfying thing I hear, other than the people good stuff, is hey, you guys showed me what car audio really is and what I've been reading about in the magazines, and you showed me how to use my equipment. Thank you very much. Like I knew what that knob was. I didn't really know how to use it. You showed me, or you told me how to do it. So, we're very proactive on getting folks involved with their own systems. And, if they want to be a world champion, they're going to probably have to associate with world champions and listen to world champion cars so they know what they sound like. You just can't guess or say, wow, this is bitching. It's bitching for the park that you drive around in circles, but not going to world finals or even state finals in the more evolved states that have full classes.
Sure. Yeah. So let's back up. Why don't you tell us how you got started, who you are, how you got started, what's your background,
what was your setup?
Okay. Well, my name's Steve Stearns. I'm here in Goodlettsville, Tennessee, in the Meca office, and I'm from Fairmont, West Virginia originally, and grew up there and played music and went to school there, and then went to Pitt in Pittsburgh and lived there for about 20 years and played music there and did stuff. And then ended up here in Nashville as a songwriter. And I'm a singer-songwriter like Americana. And you can check out my stuff at stevesternmusic.com.
Oh, we got plugs.
There you go. Shout out, stevesternmusic.com. Holla.
Yeah, there's a plug. And I got CDs. I'm 64 years old. I've been doing this a long time. I started installing car audios when 8-tracks had just come out, and in Fairmont, West Virginia, my hometown. And it's no secret I installed for a case of beer. Nice. I was like 13, 14 years old, but I was into the electronics and I was in a band, and I learned how stuff worked, especially electronic gear and speakers and amplifiers and stuff like that. The only store in town was a Radio Shack, so you had to buy the parts or buy some sort of bastardized foreign piece of equipment that you would have to bastardize even more. So it was an interesting time. Anyway, so this all evolved, and I just got in the industry and was selling home audio and car audio, and did actually pretty good at it when I was young and in the heyday of car audio, when you could work in a mall and make just, let's say, over $40,000 a year selling car stereo. I don't know how much you can do that anymore.
Probably not.
Excuse me. But then I started repping. We had our own rep firm out of Pittsburgh before I moved here, and then I moved here for music, and then Meca evolved really out of working with USACI and being one of the people that helped start USACI as a judge. One of the first, couple years was really getting to going, and was very involved in that. Did that for 10 years, and proud of what I did with USACI. We did, we were innovators. We did what Meca did 10 years later.
Right.
Started Meca in 1999, and this is our 20th anniversary.
Wow,
and,
nice.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. It's amazing. We started it for just a bunch of us crazy dudes in Tennessee, and kind of like our little circle of influence that we have here, and then it just started spreading, and now we have Meca shows in China and Indonesia and Trinidad and Malaysia, and
Mr.
it's
Worldwide.
like unbelievable.
Worldwide.
Yeah, it's international. It's not everywhere, but where it is, it's popular, and Meca as a club adapts to the local regional area. It's not maybe exactly the Meca in the U.S. that we know, but the rules are pretty much followed, which is pretty cool. So,
is it
that always amazes me? Different, like, America's just a land of, we have disposable income, but other places like that, they same thing. Like, they just want to have fun hobbies too. That's just
right.
I always think of America I know Europe and all that has DB drag and all that loud. They loud over there. But you say China and all stuff like that. It just
I heard
never think
sound quality is big in Japan or China or
it is
Asia, Malaysia or wherever.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little story just real fast. So I went to China twice for Meca, and the first time I went to Beijing, and they took me on a tour. And I saw all kinds of stuff. I saw car stereo shops next to meat markets.
That's what I'm talking about.
Why is that not here?
They installed in the street right there, like it was gross, kind of smelly. But anyway, so they took me to them, the high-end retail car audio shop in Beijing, and I walk in, and on the wall, there's a pic. They're in relief. It's not like real pictures, but drawn in relief. Mark Eldridge, Gary Biggs, and Paul Papadakis' picture.
Stop it.
Are on the wall like they're gods, right?
Well, they are kind of.
Underneath the picture was a sales shrine to Zapco, and I mean they had incense burning in it. They had Zapco amps there, red frilly stuff hanging down, and they were serious.
I mean,
they were some serious guys.
Full disclosure, I have the same exact setup in my bedroom.
Yeah, 10-4. Anyway, so that showed me then. I knew music and everything, sound quality is universal, but when I saw that, I said, "Man,
I love it. I love it.
It's just crazy how crazy.
It seems like everywhere else in the world, they're like way more passionate than we are here. Like we kind of take it for granted here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But dude, like the Russians with the SPL are just out the box. Brazil, like everywhere else in the world, they're just like fanatical about what they're doing, and I love that.
Yeah.
One thing I heard about Asia specifically for SQ is that their center is more where our left center would be. Is that true?
Yeah. Not for Meca. I mean, center.
Right. So, you mentioned some of the rules were a little different. I didn't know if maybe.
I think you'd have to go. With our judge training, is we train them.
Same way?
Yeah. So I'm going to have to stick with that. But I mean, as far as IASCA or what's the other organization?
SQ Drama.
Yeah, Emma. I'm not.
Is that still a thing? I don't even know what Emma is.
It's
I hate to
like
say
European, tied in with some Asian countries. Sound Off organization, and they're, you just have to go Google them and figure it out. But,
sure. I mean, I've seen it referenced many times, and like people talk about it like
they try to do a good job. I mean, that's the main thing. If I'm going to mention the competition, I think we're all trying to do a good job.
Oh, for sure. I think they're all good for one another personally,
Can be, yes.
So how did you, when you got started, you and I have talked about this a little bit before, but whenever you got started, were you doing Outlaw or did you go straight to Headrest or
for SPL?
Yeah.
Well,
why'd you leave USAC? Just
business reasons.
Okay.
Who
who
was in charge of USAC at the time?
Well, Ralph.
Was it Ralph?
Ralph
Okay.
Randall.
So,
Ralph,
self-explanatory for some that are watching.
Well, Ralph gave it everything he had.
He did.
He stuck around for a long time.
He did. I'm telling you, he did. I knew Ralph and I were friends.
Shout out, Ralph Randall.
What year did they start? It was in the early '90s or something.
No, we started USAC. It was USAC then in 1989.
1989.
That's how I had my first USAC trophies.
Wow, they was doing kick scores in the 80s?
That's what I'm. No, it used to be legal.
Oh, it used to be legal.
Yeah, it used to be legal, and then when
but then
then they split. They split the SQ and the SPL, and that's when they went to, and then they bastardized everything. Because back in the day, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but back in the day, USAC, you had to do install, SPL, and SQ or RTA, and everyone was in the same class. Like
Wait, you
everyone
had to
was
do
in that
SQ
class.
and RTA.
Yeah, everything.
And install.
And it was
sound
all,
prep.
it was just power classes.
One score
So
sheet.
that's right. Everyone was in the same division. It was just different power classes across the board. So everybody had to do everything. So like a guy that was doing 140 dB but had a crazy SQ score could beat somebody doing 150 dB that sounded like shit or had a terrible install or whatever. So it was like you had to do everything. And then when they split it up, that's sort of when, you know, install went with SQ and SPL just became about, you know, duct tape and bare boxes and let me see how loud I can get, which I love, don't get me wrong, because you know it's in my blood too. Yeah, and SPL tape and SPL glue. But yeah, I mean, I love that part too. You know what I mean? But
it all originates from just people wanting a loud daily system, right?
Sure.
I mean there are people out there that just want a straight burp and go home.
Well, they used to do Flashdance. They used to all use the same song at the time too, right? Was this Flashdance?
Well, you know,
days?
There are people who really crave and live for bass.
Right.
They're called bass heads.
Right.
We all know there's one. Well, anyway, what they're listening to is not natural. It's not always musical. It seldom is at the highest level, but it is an engineering feat. And that's what they kind of graduate to. They kind of evolve from a music enjoying person who's kind of focused on the bass, knowing that bass is so popular in our culture and the way things are mixed and the way music's presented and things. They like it and they want more. And then they learn that I can do this or I can get this done. I can pay to have it done, or I can buy some stuff and figure it out myself and get my friends to help me. But I can make my car shake. I can make myself almost throw up if I want to. And I have enough money and knowledge. So we're all for that. You know, that's cool. You know, we just try to quantify those scores and give them something meaningful. You know, when they're competing in these classes, we want these classes to be meaningful and not gimme classes. And, you know, you really got to work for it. And the lowest classes, you really got to show us that you can do the most with the least. And this has all evolved from, you know, we had to go through everything that we went to the sport with, whether it was World of Wheels, IASCA, USAC to USACI, into Meca, DB Drag, which, you know, basically we started at the same time. You know, we've evolved the sport, especially I'm talking sound pressure sports, and you know, it did split off, like you said. It went from sound quality to sound pressure, and then we took another split with the headrest measurement, which back in the old days we called reality SPL, and we actually had identical classes for reality SPL at the headrest, like we do now, with the Linear X mic. Those you remember that sort of thing, and we had a blast with that, and we had the regular, you know, outlaw that, you know, USACI popularized, and still, you know, that's their thing. You know, in the floorboard generally. You know, that's the loudest place to get your best score.
No, yeah, generally.
Makes everybody feel happy.
In the vehicle, there's a lot of variables. But you know, I really feel Meca revolutionized the way we listen to bass and the conceptualization of how it's integrated into the music. Okay, and how you can separate it out, and if you want to exaggerate it, you can play one note and blow your brains out.
Sure.
You know, we got lots of classes for that.
I actually, Skip, before you jumped in, Skip and I were talking about, we were arguing, not arguing, debating metering styles on Facebook earlier today, and how
Taylor had your back.
windshield dash legal or whatever you want to call it is like the standard. In the world.
International standard.
International standard is the word that was used. And I argued that dash legal is actually the most arbitrary position because it's picked for no reason whatsoever. Like headrest, obviously, for music, that's where our head is. Outlaw is just put it where it's the loudest forward of the beat billet.
Doors open, too.
Doors open, whatever you want to do, right?
Well,
and dash legal is like, it's retarded. It doesn't make any sense. There's no good reason for it to be there.
Well, I think part of the reasoning is, and we can ask Wayne, or I think he'd be the guy to ask,
let's get Wayne on
it's
here.
kind of the most far forward place for the mic.
call
Well,
it.
Okay,
and it was on the windshield, so you could see it, right? So nobody was
well,
like
that
messing
too,
with it.
but still, it's the most far as far as getting your score. It's the most far forward place. So if you're creating a wave, depending on how that wave is channeled, that could be the loudest place in. And there are vehicles that is the loudest place, you know, in the vehicle. It's not often, but you know,
Right.
I've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it.
Sure.
So,
I just my point is
it is a standard for DB drag.
Right.
I mean, DB drag is worldwide, it's international, and
I ask meters there. I ask meters there too. But
now they do.
Right. How come they don't judge their sound quality from the windshield?
Right.
Exactly. Because this is about music, right? It's about music.
It's supposed but
our
bass
head is
about engineering. Bass takes music another step. It's about engineering. It's really not.
Well, for those who
bass note, it's not a full spectrum musical experience.
Well, it should be. Which I ask not to give a shout out to any of your competitors.
If you're a bass head, you don't care about the rest of that. You want one note that piques your whatever.
Well, one of the things that I love about headrest metering is that it favors daily systems. Right. Just the nature of the beast is that it favors and lower tune.
Well, we didn't know that when we started, and that was
lie about it, Steve. Lie. Say that you knew that already.
Well, no, I'm going to just tell you that when we started it, I mean, we didn't know it would evolve into what it evolved into. We didn't know reality SPL would become our standard. Okay. I do have background as a sound engineer. I don't have a degree, but I've mixed more bands and more people singing than most people ever even imagine in their life. So, I have a lot of experience there, and it was just kind of an intuitive thing. It's like, put that there because that's where our heads are. And also that's where the music's listened to. And then it turns out that the sweet spot is like 36, 42 cycles, just like what it is for music, that, starting to really build that lowest octave.
Love it.
So, then people started getting into it because then they could build their daily drivers and just make a box that went kaboom, But that was cool, and we just started seeing that happening. And now, it may not be a worldwide standard, but for people who know, I mean, it is the hardest test in sound pressure sports. It's a free field test. You are playing a lower frequency. You're not playing 60 cycles or, the dB drag I ask on the windshield. Generally, that's 60, 58, 63, 65 in there. That's not what we're about. You can do that. Our rules allow for that. But, at the headrest, you
hurt my feelings.
Tuning down low.
It hurt my feelings the first show. It hurt my feelings.
What's that?
It hurt my feelings the first show. I wasn't appreciated about it. My score dropped a lot.
Yeah, people tend to get their feelings hurt if they're coming, especially down here. If they're coming from Houston down here, to Meca, oh my God, you go from kick to headrest. It's like I lost 10. I lost 10.
Maybe
you lost
in my
10?
CRX 10.
I think I lost 4 and I was a little. But
I think Tommy K loses 10 or used to lose.
But then they learn why. They go, well, I'm playing a tone that I really don't even like to listen to in the music. It's like yuck. But then
it's
when
mid bass
this way, it sounds better, and I get a better score. So win-win.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. No, I love headrest metering, and I love that sound quality is such an integral part of Meca, as well as headrest metering, because you don't need 2 boxes. You don't have to have a burp box and a music box.
Nope.
You can use
some people
both.
have 2 ports, or they had a little, but they're really splitting hairs. But they're also probably the people that are trying to be a world champion because they're really they're that into it.
Yeah.
If I could just take a second to, I've been thinking about this. I'd really like to give a shout out to somebody who really helped change sound pressure sports for everybody. And I don't know if you'd say he's an unsung hero, but Rick Washabaugh from Kentucky, who's been with Meca since probably about 18 years, since the second year of Meca, and has been a world champion multiple times, a Bobos champion multiple times, on our Rules and Ethics Committee for years, helped write our rule book. This guy here, for those of you who especially appreciate where we're at today with the headrest, he encouraged me, and that was something that we did together. But one thing Rick really did that people will hate him for and love him for at the same time was we couldn't figure out how to go from the Linear X to a good system that was competitive with this pressure class system that we have with the woofers, cone surface area, and the power being counted towards your potential. Okay. And Rick came up with the fusing. And I know that you folks out there are going, oh my God.
That was so
I used to
cool.
give
Brilliant.
fusing so much hell.
It
That
was
was
brilliant. For that time, it was brilliant. And it took
is
us where we are today with clamping. We wouldn't have got the clamping
Exactly.
if we wouldn't have had the fusing.
Exactly.
I don't think.
It was a
And
limiter.
I
It was
will
a
tell
limiter.
You,
Yeah.
I worked with Wayne, and Meca asked for clamping for many years before we, 2-3 years before we actually got it, and then everybody else. By then, everybody realized this is the shit.
piling on.
This is the way to go.
Yeah.
And then Wayne's equipment is so awesome, and he works with us. He's probably, Rick, as far as a competitor and the rules, the sport owes him a debt of gratitude. And for our finals, I'll just put this out. We have an award for him. He's going to be the first Meca Judge Emeritus. So he's basically a judge for life.
Like Super Saiyan.
He'll always be on the Rules and Ethics Committee.
Nice.
He's going to.
He's got tenure.
Yeah. So he's got tenure for sure. So shout out to him, and then to Wayne for helping Meca with the meter for Meca, and now for the whole sport. And it is brilliant, and it takes us places. I mean, the bracket racing we can do now is incredibly cool.
You know, it's funny.
If you can conceptualize what we're doing and really understand what our competitors are doing in the sound pressure tests, park and pound, too. I mean, it's incredible. And the people that are doing this, they just don't get enough recognition. Some of these people are geniuses.
Yeah.
They just, you may be one. I don't know.
He's not. He's not.
Skip,
Settle down.
I'm not at all.
I know I'm not. I'm a judge. I tell people this all the time. I'm a sound quality judge who got in over his head. I probably told you that when we were talking.
Still trying to get it.
Paddling.
Because it's hard, and you want to please everybody, and you. But the main thing is, to do that, you have to have a great rule book, and you have to have good people. And if you don't have that, you can't move forward. So we've been very fortunate lately to have that, and then have some good sponsorship come along. Not tens of thousands and millions of dollars, but enough to keep us going.
Yeah.
And it's awesome that we have the support for our club and for the people that are in our community.
So you posted the other day that one of the SQ classes has over 20 cars in it at finals.
Well, it was heading that way. It stopped at 19.
Well, still 19 is pretty
19,
damn
we
good.
never had a class with 19. So that's awesome. And I'm tickled. We have pretty much confirmed now, I think on our finals list, 76 or something confirmed sound quality only cars. We have 17 dueling demos. We have 107 sound pressure vehicles.
You said 70 SQ?
Yes, sir.
That's crazy.
Yes, sir.
Man.
Love it.
When I
started this, sound quality was dead in 1999. We couldn't even get 6 cars together.
Right? Well, that's all I hear about is the
Taylor needs to
heyday.
go.
That's
what
all I
Taylor
hear
needs to
about
go.
is the heyday. Yeah,
Taylor
right.
needs to go buy a championship back then. Go back in time.
Just PayPal and shit.
Not in Meca. Yeah.
Yeah, I always hear about if you talk to anybody older than, I don't know, 30 years old, they'll tell you about how they used to have 100 cars in their class every show they went to, and nothing was a gimme and whatever. And you're talking about Wayne and the term lab and stuff, but a lot of people blame the term lab on diminished attendance, especially at World Finals, because everyone knows what everyone else is doing now.
Unless
they ain't gonna show up a second. They ain't gonna show up a second, huh?
Yeah,
right? They're not. They're not showing up for second.
Well,
so
if
if you know the guy in front of you's doing 151 and you're doing a 50, what's the point of even making the trip?
Well, we give out 5 places, so if you want to, it's your credentials.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nobody's showing up for second.
Well, our classes are full except a couple. Serious business.
But sound quality, love it or hate it, it's subjective. And so you might think your shit sounds fantastic. So when you get there, they're like, it sounds like shit.
Well, it's not so much it sounds like shit, it's just not scoring well. I mean, sounds like shit is a score of like 30.
Yeah,
not sounding too good is like 50, 55.
Hey, give us a
60.
reference. Give us a reference for the people watching that have no idea what we're talking about. Give us a 100 is perfect, right?
Well,
so give us a reference, like
has
really great stock.
Has
system.
there ever been 100?
No. There never will be.
There never will be.
No, there's no such thing as a perfect score. Where would we go from there? It's not possible. Plus, our rule book's very definitive in the way it describes the scoring. So basically, we have a 100-point score sheet. I'm not going to show you mine, but we have a 100-point score sheet, and it's divided into quarter points. So we basically have a 400 increment score sheet. Okay, so that's a lot of increments. For people say 100 points isn't enough. I think it's enough. Most of the score sheet is based on tonality. Okay, the rest of the score sheet is based on imaging and sonic characteristics like ambience and linearity at a higher level of volume, a lower level of volume. We have a very simple score sheet, and it's been that way for years. It's evolved a little bit. We do listen for noise, but not like we used to in the old day. That's not the big thing. It doesn't help your system score anyway, so we're not going to dock you because it's going to come off anyway somewhere if you've got noise. So it kind of goes like this. A stock car that's pretty average would get maybe 45 to 50 points. Okay, that's
stock as in like stock class or like a regular ass.
Just like a Toyota Celica or a Toyota Corolla
right.
basic system with luck would get a 45, maybe. Okay, the stage would be low. It sound thin.
Everything would be smushed to the left, probably.
You know, it sounds like a radio, a rolling radio. It doesn't sound like a car audio high performance system.
Right.
Okay. So then we move up the ladder. You go to something like just kind of the step up audio system from that, and then maybe you're around 60, 65 points, and then you head up into the nicer stereos that they make for the upper end cars like the Bose or the Levinson and some of that stuff, and just throwing out names. But then you might be, scoring 70, 75 points. We did something was pretty interesting. A lot of people don't know. We did 2008, so it's been 10 years. General Motors called me up, and they wanted me and some judges to come up and listen to the new Cruise system.
Wow. So here we go. This is like leading into the next question I had, I think.
So they flew us up, me, Vinny Taylor, and Chris Zenner, who's no longer with us. They got the three of us up there to the proving grounds in Michigan, and we scored the Cruise with a 9-speaker system, which we did not know at the time was all made by Pioneer, which is one of our sponsors, but we didn't know that. So it still got a 70, like a 73, 74.
Wow.
Nice.
And then they had us, but the stage was low. That was just the deal. Stage is low. Then they had us judge the Cadillac CTS was coming out brand new, and they said, as long as you're here, judge this one. It got a couple points more with a nicer Bose system.
Man, that's awesome.
Theoretically.
That is awesome.
So anyway, so that gives you an idea there. So what we're talking
about. And Vinny's tough, too. Vinny's tough.
Well, we all scored within 3 points of each other like we normally do. I mean, the good judges, that's one thing, I try not to get off track, but, just telling people, we're not trying to put you down. Our judges really have no agenda to hurt anybody or make you feel bad. But when you have 3 judges tell you all pretty much the same thing and give you the same score, you kind of got to go with the flow. These are experts. Vinny, Matt, some of these guys are the best in the world. I mean, you really have some of the best judges in the world working with Meca and to do our thing. So you got to take that and work with that and listen to what they say, and then listen to the other cars that are scoring those high scores and figure out what's going on and decide if you want to invest in that and move on that way, or you just want to enjoy your system and make it the nicest it can be.
I think that's one of the toughest things, I think, for a lot of people is to humble themselves and listen to what the judge is trying to tell you and then make those adjustments. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. A lot of people are like, screw that guy, he's deaf and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I think it sounds awesome, so screw him, whatever.
Well, and you do get that. And, we're not out to hurt anybody's feelings. We want it to sound better for you. I mean, that's what we live for. We live for somebody saying, man, I had those pair of tweeters on my A-pillar and it just opened up and it was incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So
anyway, the CTSV got a 75. So what?
Okay. So, yeah. So that was a good score. But when you're talking high performance cardio systems in the sound quality realm, that 75 points is kind of the first real hurdle. That's when you hit that 75, you're starting to get some magic happening in the system. I mean, it still is not perfect by any means, but stuff is starting to gel, which basically is coming down to time alignment, tonality balance. Those are the main things, really. And then everything else sets up from there if you do a good job.
Right.
But when you get an 80-point car, not to be too facetious, but it's like one of the apostles had a hand in the installation.
That's
okay,
crazy.
so they really just took it to another level. And then that 80-point car, the master himself, that 85-point car, the master himself was involved, and he touched you. And something incredible happened, because an 85-point car, it sounds pretty much like you're there.
Yeah.
It's like you're sitting in a pair of headphones, only better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so incredible. And, I've been to
the difference.
I play music, but I'm telling you, when you sit in a car that is tuned right and staged right, it's like you close your eyes and it's like butter. It's
the difference between like say a 60 point car and a 70-point car, not so much, but the difference between a 75 and an 85 is retarded. Like, it starts
a lot of that comes down to the tuning.
I was about to say that, like,
because when you get the tuning right, then the staging starts to develop. If the speakers
right,
are
everything starts to come together.
Tuning is so critical.
When you get up that high,
for those of you out there who are just looking at, how do I start? I start with the drums. If the drums don't sound right, nothing don't sound right. So you got to start there. Just saying.
When you get that high up in the score, does equipment come into play a lot right there, or you could still?
Oh, here we go.
Well,
opening the can.
Equipment does come into play, because the people who are playing at that level are willing to spend the money to get the best equipment. And what they're going for more than anything is efficiency for the amplifiers, and resolution, along the line. Now, that's the big word. I mean, with digital and everything now, we want resolution. We want clarity. We want reality. We want virtual reality music, just about. We want to close our eyes, and in the best Meca cars, you kind of have it. You close your eyes, and you can just about see that mouth moving. Seriously. And
anybody that's watching or listening.
I'm sorry.
I was just telling anybody that's out there watching or listening that has never been to the sound quality side and listened to any of these cars, please, I beg of you to come to that side and get a demo from any competitor.
Anybody that's been judged. Once they've been judged, they're very free about letting you listen, and some of them will give you extensive listeners. And the nicer you are to them, the nicer they are to you. It's just people stuff. You can sit in the best vehicles pretty much in this hemisphere, for sure, if not the world. And I challenge anybody to bring us just about anything better than our top 5 or 6. I mean, they're just
let me just address a question or a comment in the troll box really quickly from Tommy K. Tommy, when it's the equipment, it's a voluntary thing on the score sheet. If you want to tell, shout out your team or whatever it is, you can. But unless you have a name on the grill in your car, they're gonna have no idea what you're running, and unless you're competing install, they're not gonna go through your system with a fine-tooth comb. They have no idea what you're running. So, like I said, unless there's
for sound pressure or for sound quality.
No, for sound quality. He said the judges shouldn't know what equipment you're running.
The install judge does.
The install. That's what I'm saying.
The verification judge would do that, but the listener needs to be independent. We don't want the listener looking at that equipment. We want the listener. They're just a pair of ears.
That's right.
We want them to shut their eyes. I mean, just about, So, but I understand what you're saying. There's.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't. Yeah. Unless they
don't need to know.
That's exactly the point. Yeah, that's right. Like, I personally think that they should get in the damn car with a blindfold on me personally, but other than not seeing anything that they're listening to, they really don't. They really don't.
I mean, you can tell, you can localize where the speakers are, and you might be able to look over and see a grill that has a logo on it or something. I mean, you can pretty much always tell what the head unit is, because you got to interface with the head unit. Basically all we're doing is doing track and volume.
Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do?
If there even is a head unit anymore. And then so most of our good judges, they just put that out of their mind. They're just a pair of ears, man. It's like you could just take their head and stick it on a stand, just like the sensor for SPL, and that's what they are. Yeah, that's how good they are.
Right. And to address the concerns a lot of people have, SPL, it's a mic, it doesn't care what you're running, it just gives a pressure.
Well, and if I might just add, that it is, the same metering system that NASA uses to measure how loud the stuff is that takes off
Right.
They do. So if it's good enough for NASA,
Yeah.
it's
I
good
use
enough
that.
for Meca.
I use that
said
argument
a million times, you know. So, and it doesn't care. All it cares about
No.
is the frequency and the clamping thing. You know, it's clamping for power, and
Yep.
it's just doing its job. It's a machine. It is a brilliant machine. It's getting even better. He's starting the RTA stuff. We really can't get into it this year, but next year we'll be using the RTA on that, and it's the best RTA I've ever seen. It's incredible.
I use
Yeah,
that.
it's
I use
awesome.
that. I use that NASA point every time somebody argues with it about another another brand
Yeah,
mic.
Yeah.
Shut up.
and,
Shut up. NASA uses it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, on the SPL thing you were mentioning too, just previously, you know, about going to local shows and not really getting the real scores and stuff. Just mentioning, you know, yeah, it is a little bit of an education, but when you know you're on a piece of equipment like that, and it's a world-class piece of equipment, there should be a little bit more confidence. And, you know, believe me, there's ways to go around and do anything but eat and stuff like that. But it's very obvious if anybody's trying to mess with that.
My point was SPL guys, you know, the argument they make against SQ is that it's subjective and it's not just an objective sensor like the term lab. But my point was, when you get into these world class, you know, world finals level judges, they are what we call educated listeners. And once you get into a certain level of educated listener, the scores are going to be crazy close, you know. True. So everything is super consistent. So it doesn't matter. Once you get to a certain level of judge, all the scores, all the comments, everything, you know, it stops being necessarily subjective, starts being more objective, because they're all going to hear the same things. You know, everything's going to be tighter. Right.
That's the idea.
Right.
Right.
So anybody who's thinking about competing in SQ, it's not really subjective.
It's a challenge. And, you know, the main thing about it is don't worry so much about the scores unless you're just that kind of person. You know,
me.
Taylor
just saying. But, you know, learn about the music and just make it sound better. You know, the best thing I can hear anybody say is, you know, I learned how to use my system, and my system sounds better than it ever did, and better than I thought it ever would. And it's because I went to Meca shows and talked to people and listened to cars. You know, that's why you know, I got a nice sounding system today. I can live with this system. I can drive it down the street.
I love it. I love it.
It's neat. I don't know what to say.
Skip is not. He may not admit it on the show, but he has competed in sound quality and did rather well.
No, we're not going to mention my score, but you did judge it, Steve. So
that's right.
I'm not gonna.
You did, and it was
that in Texas.
It was in New Orleans.
No, New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And it was pro audio stuff.
Yeah, it was all pro audio, super tweets,
super tweeters in the doors, down by your ankles and shit.
What kind of vehicle?
An Explorer. Yeah.
Right. Because I remember the bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it was not bad. The score was not bad because I listened to it before he gave it to you, and honestly, it's not bad.
That's what I wanted to ask. Like, what's the highest you've seen somebody gain? Like, say, just from tuning. Like, they went to one show you had and scored a 60, and then came back. Just a couple of like, what's the, you know what I mean? Like, they came back and messed with their crossovers, messed with their.
Well, that's one thing you have to watch when you're a judge. You know, like, say you give somebody a 72, and you say, hey, if you get this tonality worked out, you're going to go up a little bit.
All right.
So then they do it, and then they don't go up as much as they thought. Maybe, or maybe they go up. You know. Generally, they don't go as much as they would think.
Right.
But I'm sorry. What's the question?
So I'll jump in with a different one.
Please.
I'll jump in with a different
that's
one.
good. No.
What is the highest scoring stock car, like factory?
That was
car?
My question too.
I know. I'm asking it for you.
But you didn't say.
Forget.
Yeah, but you didn't say from me.
I'm not talking about stock class. I'm talking about like rolling off the factory
BMW,
line.
a Mercedes,
BMW, or some crazy shit with a BMW system.
I mean, you said a Cadillac at
Bowers and
75.
Wilkins.
I don't think much more than a 75.
75.
That's crazy.
That's still pretty awesome.
I know.
I mean, that would have won stock class last year.
Mark Levinson system,
right?
Pretty thought out.
Yeah, like a $1 million car or some bullshit.
Yeah.
So there you go. There, everybody out there listening, you got a 75 to beat the best.
That's cool.
Non-molested car in the world. 75.
High performance cardio system.
Right. There you go. Alpine, Bose, all that.
I
gotta tell you, the stock system in my car right now, it's close. It's gonna be close. I'm telling you, it's like a 72.
Well, I remember it might have been 3 years, but Kyle Ragsdale, I think he had an 80 at
Stop
finals in stock. When
Stop
all
it.
3 judges averaged out, I think he was
Get
like
out of
right
here.
there. I'm
That's
serious.
crazy.
I know.
What's
We freaked out too, but he did a good tuning job that day. You know, one thing about the sport though, you do have perceived outcomes, but you have to remember it's a sport. You know, anything can happen. You know, somebody can blow a tweet, or somebody can show up and their system shits the bed. I mean, you just don't know. You know, somebody loses a processor and tries to retune, and they're lost. They don't have their buddy with them. So you don't know. It's a contest. Anything can happen. It's not quite as exciting as the NFL, but it's anything can happen.
Is it like that stock class? Is that like an 80 in a stock class for SQ? Is that like a 50, a 58 in S1 or something? Like something
it's
absurd.
Dumb. Yeah, I think about an 80 in stock class is like doing
it was high, but
60 a 160 in what like Super Street 500 or something.
It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that analogy.
Yeah. But I mean, what makes it like that?
It was extraordinary.
Just because of the locations? That's the only reason that class is limited.
What has to be the tuning? Well, I mean, believe me, to get a score like that on stock car, it's got to be every single
All right,
thing.
so anybody listening, okay, stock class, you cannot have a DSP, which is digital sound processor, outboard, right? You can only have the head unit, and your head unit has to be limited to 16 bands of EQ. So the best head unit on the planet for that is the PRS 80 PRS. So we all know that one. We all love it. All right.
We didn't do that on purpose. It just kind of
right.
Pioneer sponsor.
Sponsors.
Mama.
But it's a fantastic head unit anyway. There's only like 3 head units on the planet that have independent left-right EQ anyway. Right. So, speaker locations. You can only use the stock locations. You can add a 1.5-inch tweeter to an easily removable panel, and that is it.
You're not allowed to have tweeters up on the A panel.
Right. You can't cut anything. You can't mold anything. You can't do anything. Basically, change the speakers and change the video.
It's got to look exactly factory.
It's fantastic. I love it. It's such a challenge, and that's why I've been in it.
The main thing you don't have is time alignment. That's
the 80 has the time alignment, but the big thing is you can't run three-way like the big dogs do. Yeah. I can't have a dedicated mid-range. So
what do you even tune then? You tune just your EQ stuff?
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's a challenge. I love it. I hate it, and I love it.
That's cool. I like limited classes like that.
So speaking of exposure. You had a HBO special done on you last year, huh? Or sort of. Not really you.
Special so much. We had coverage on Vice News on HBO. You can go to YouTube and do Vice News Car Audio, and it's the first thing it says that we visited the Olympics of car audio.
That's right.
And that's on Meca. It was about the club, and specifically, once they developed the story, it was about the Bobo's competitors, the best of show guys, Charles Haley and Mike Flanagan, and kind of followed their journey and their systems and stuff. And it was only about 5.5 minutes long, but it was really cool. And they called me out of the blue about a week before finals. Like, I'm kind of waiting for them to call me now and say we want to do a redo. I was really hoping they would, but it came out of nowhere, and they just heard about the club, and they just thought it was really cool, and they saw a lot of cool stuff, and they said it was a very popular segment that they did. So we were very appreciative of that.
Dude, it was a cool segment, even though it was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be, because they were there all day.
It took like 16 hours of.
Video. I was walking around with my pants around my ankles like all day trying to get on camera. They would not pay me any attention.
I wonder why.
I would have filmed it.
Oh man,
they were really good guys, and
no, they were cool.
It's funny though. You would think something like that, after it aired and we publicized it and give it about 2-3 weeks, you think that my phone would have been ringing off the hook, and people, other competitors and industry people, community people, they're, hey, way to go, that's awesome. But as far as the industry responding and saying, man, let's give you a kick in the butt. That was so awesome. Let's give you some money and help you do this even better. Not just this little club out of, Goodlettsville out in the mountains. Let's make this a really cool thing, Not one call. Not one.
That's a
shame.
It's
crazy. And we've had other stuff that we've done that's been really cool, and we just get no traction. And, I try to expose it the best I can. We worked with Red Bull last year and supplied some cars for one of their events in California.
No kidding.
We had an article in the Wall Street Journal a few years back with Mark Eldridge and his car.
Wow.
Not one call.
Wow.
And, you know, it's like.
Eldridge, for anybody wondering, anybody
cares.
wondering, Mark Eldridge had a full-on 100% certified bona fide NASCAR that he built from the ground up for sound quality. Like, this thing was bananas, dude. It had JL12W7s, I think it was, in the kick panels.
Oh my gosh.
In the kick panels as mid bass. This thing was crazy, dude. And I read some I'm not trying to get crazy, but I read some people talking about it, and he had 2 pairs of his components, his high, voice speakers for lobe steering, pointing, steering the front wave in a
he had a custom
way.
100% fabricated dashboard. So he was in our master class, so he could do anything he wanted.
Yeah,
and
it was a legitimate NASCAR still.
We had to climb in the window to judge it.
Yeah, it was still a legitimate NASCAR. He told
me
that he legit took it on the track racing with all the shit in it.
Absolutely.
With it on.
It was so loud. Oh my god.
Now, you were asking about kind of the pinnacle of the sport. Now, there's different tunings. One time I judged Mark's car, and it was maybe a 79.5, and I was a little out of 100, and I was like, Mark, I hate. Score's a little low, but that's what I heard. And he goes, "Yeah, that's a core. I expected this." I go, "Oh, okay, cool." Next time I heard it, it was like an 88 car. Like you were asking about something going up.
Wow.
But it was at that time. I will say that and Alma's JBL vehicle were the 2 best I've ever heard. Going back also to Coy Hudnall, back a long time ago from Kentucky, his Camaro was incredible. But
Alma Gates.
Yeah, Alma.
I actually asked one of a judge a long time ago. Well, I say a long time ago. I asked a judge what was the best vehicle he's ever heard, like a really well-respected judge. Best vehicle he's ever heard. He said Alma Gates Bronco. Yeah.
When the JBL vehicle was right on, and Mark tuned it. Mark worked on it. Mark and Gary Biggs, I'm sure. So, it was amazingly musical. And plus, they had speakers on the outside. It was kind of like a revolutionary vehicle at its time.
This was like pre-DSP too, right? Like this was a 2-seat car type thing. I never had the honor of meeting Alma Gates, but or hearing the Buick, the Grand National, or any of the really great 2-seat cars from back in the day. I never got a chance to hear any of them. So I'm new to the sound quality scene. Everything I hear is 1 seat. I have heard a great 2-seat car,
everything you heard is 1 seat.
Yeah, everything's tuned to the driver.
Oh, I thought you meant like they make like a mono seat right in the middle.
No, not like Chris Pate's car where everything there's 1 seat in the car.
Okay.
I mean, everything is tuned. When we say 1 seat,
you mean it sounds good on both sides?
Sound quality, yeah. Everything is time aligned and tuned to the driver's headrest, basically.
But theirs sounded good on both sides. You're saying?
Well, they didn't have DSP or time alignment or any of that shit, so they had to tune it basically to sound good on both sides. I don't know if they used to get judged on both sides of the car or whatever, but all you could do was just make it both sides sound the same.
That's
and
cool.
Try to hope for the best. I
measure the wires, path length, literally.
I did the math on the speed of light versus how long it would take to travel through some wire, and it's not a good idea. So don't.
It makes a difference.
Let's not do that. But yeah, anyway.
You could do time alignment with just a roll of wire on the ground. Is that what
I mean, yeah. If you
theoretically, if you had enough.
I mean, it travels near the speed of light. So imagine how long it takes light to travel a millisecond. If you need like a millisecond worth of time delay, because you know what I'm saying? Like the driver's
30 yards of wire.
Right. Let's say, the driver's side is closer to you than the passenger side. For anybody listening that doesn't understand. So you want the sound from this speaker to meet your face at the same time as the passenger speaker. So that's right. So you want to delay the closer speaker
like this,
like milliseconds.
This is going out this way.
Right.
This is right here.
Both hit you at the same time, your ears at the same time. And what that does is create a center, quote unquote, phantom center, where it appears to be in the center of the windshield for the person in the driver's seat. You can only do that for one spot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sort of. I mean, I guess there's all pass filters and different tricks you can use, like Bose does, um, to have it sound good for several positions. But in general, you can only do it for one seat.
Tommy K said it had a prototype DSP in it that Eldridge developed, or Biggs, one of those guys. Why y'all both look?
I'm looking at the troll.
You don't have to look. I just said it.
Oh, he said Alma Gates had a prototype DSP.
Yeah.
Because I said it didn't have a DSP.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't remember. I wasn't around.
It makes sense that they had it just because of the way it sounded. Now that I think back, because when I judged it, I never really looked at the equipment that close. I just judged it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm just listening. I don't care what's in it.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't care what's in it.
There was two though, right? Were there two Broncos? Because one of them had like 19 alternators and
was like
175 woofers.
Yeah, I think it was the first vehicle to do 160 dB. I think that was the Beast, and then there was I get the names mixed up, but then there was the JBL Bronco.
Yeah,
which was more sound quality.
I'm like
doing demos oriented.
I'm pissed I never got to hear the Grand National or some of these legendary cars, but I got to tell you, I don't know if they can top some of the experiences that I've had in some of the cars I've heard. Chris Pates and Matt Halls and Scott
I think
Welch.
It could be just as good. It's just maybe a little different, but the hardware, you're still making music, so.
Some of those guys used to retrofit home stuff in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy stuff. Crazy
home stuff, professional stuff, right?
I mean, is it like SPL? Like this, the equipment is so much better nowadays that SQ is better, or no?
Actually, it's weird because I think it's backwards. I think those guys, a lot of the sound quality guys, think like the old school shit sounds better than the new school stuff.
Well,
so it's like reverse.
Worlds collided.
I mean, to me, the obvious things are that power is much cheaper. Everybody used to think, $1 a watt. Now it's 40 cents a watt. I don't know.
10 cents.
Whatever. Speaker technology has advanced greatly, but a good sounding speaker is still a good sounding speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They call a speaker a digital speaker. That doesn't, I don't know if that really means anything other than it can reproduce digital music that any speaker can reproduce. So It's fast, but they're all fast. So I think that the equipment is probably this much better. But the knowledge is this much better.
Oh, yeah.
I have room on my screen. Just what we've learned about sound quality and sound dynamics and engineering, and of course bass. Technology. How to take one note and make a system just blow your mind. One note. That's that technology. That's that engineering. So, it's changed, but. You still got to know what you're doing. Doesn't really matter what, I've seen systems with $1,500 that killed systems that were worth $8,000 just because the person knew what they're doing. And maybe those brand names weren't the biggest brand names, but 500 watts is 500 watts on the meter, right? That's physics. So it doesn't matter who made it. It's knowing what you're doing. The box is the big, variable in SPL.
Right.
That box and getting a well-tuned box, well-built, designed to interact with the car. The car basically becomes a bass enclosure at that point anyway. It's part of it. It's all integrated. So.
Did you ever have bass cars?
Or?
Yeah.
Personally, my system.
Right. Yeah.
I had a couple. That Usaki trophy behind me from I think it's 1990 actually. That was 410s, Savard 10s behind. The seat
local.
Shout out
behind the standard cab pickup truck seat, 410s behind the back with Autotech amps.
Oh, so Tommy K been copying you
shout out Tommy K.
Yeah, I don't know.
Riding like this on the dash.
We know you know who Tommy K is.
89, I did it's 137 something. For, I was
Park
pretty
and pound.
proud of that, back in the day. But we had another vehicle called the Torture Chamber that had an 18. Took a van, gutted it in the back, and put a captain's chair in the middle in the back, and put an 18 behind your head, and two 15s on each side, and then tweeters, mid ranges everywhere, and you'd sit back there, and it was all Savard and Autotech just at that time. We were reps for that, so that's where that's coming from. And we would make people jump out of that chair. Like we would leave the side door open so they could get out, and we'd turn it on, and people hadn't heard stuff back like, 1993, 95, whatever. They hadn't heard stuff like that. We'd go to a new town and, oh, a torture chamber, and then I would put them in there and play Flash Dance, and they go, Flash Dance, da, 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 da.
Oh, it's awesome.
Out, so I don't know.
Dude, bailout videos are my favorite.
I don't know about being a pioneer of this sort of stuff, because I really don't believe I was by any means. I just was in on it too. I was just like everybody else. I wanted a loud system. I wanted to show people. I wanted to show off. I wanted to have fun with it. When I got it tuned right and I drive them down the road, I want to listen to music. I had that on the front end. But if I wanted to blow somebody out, because being a factory rep back then, you had to have the cojones to show somebody that you had the cojones. So this was the way to do it. And we would. I was talking to my rep partner the other day. We're still friends, and we were just laughing about what we would do with that torture chamber. Take it to Maryland, and I remember in Baltimore, people going in and jumping out like rabbits. Never heard nothing like that.
I remember. I mean, euphoric recall. I just remember everything being so much louder back then. I mean, nothing like some of the stuff that I've heard, but like 140 dB was so much louder back then than it is now. It's crazy.
Yeah, we take it for granted now, and 140 dB, on the dashboard or underneath the dash is a lot different than 140 dB at the headrest.
Right.
So, and it sounds different. The lower stuff really gets you, where that higher frequency is just kind of a technical thing. It's okay, but the lower frequencies really get people going. There's just something about them.
I say that all the time. Like I ride around probably like 145 dB. That's loud,
dude. It's for real.
That's
it's
loud.
Like blurry vision type.
At the headrest.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first started Meca and doing the reality expo, I mean, it was rare that somebody did a 45.
Mm-hmm.
A 40 was like, oh man, a 40 then at the headrest was like a 50 today.
They got dudes doing 140 parking pounds
I know.
now.
Our very first episode of the podcast, we were talking about 60 is the new 50. Like everybody can do a 60 now. It's dumb.
60's tough, man. At the headrest?
I think we have a local guy, Drew Jones. Shout out, Drew. Can do a 60 at the headrest.
He didn't do it last year.
Well, he could do it in M5. He can't do it in M4. But I think he counted them up, and there's only like 13 people in the world that can do a 60 at the headrest.
That's loud.
That's bananas, dude. You're talking about
the dome.
To the dome.
Not in the kick. Not your head in the kick.
No. That's why I love the bass miner, because dude, when
once you just need to retire. You've done it like
no. I'm talking about like when I got in Pablo's van at Scraping last year or whatever, the year before. Dude, like I was done. He hurt me, like legitimately hurt me. 65 at 55 to my face.
I'm not sitting in nothing over 45 hertz. I'm not sitting in again.
Dude, I thought I might have to go to the hospital the next day. I never told anybody this except like Stuart the next day. When I woke up the next day, I was like, bro, for real, I think there's like something wrong inside me.
That chest pains.
And I'm not kidding. And then I heard a story.
You didn't
yeah, I tapped. You
okay.
kidding me? It was my first tap. I was like, bro, shut this down.
There's new studies out now about people who are involved with explosions and how the wave goes through you. And this is the same thing with the bass, man. It's going through you. It's working on your internal organs, and
he hurt me.
Yeah,
he hurt me, like legit hurt me.
It can make you making your pants.
We haven't seen the brown note yet. I'm still waiting for that.
We don't want to see that. Too much information.
I do.
Okay.
Not in my car though. Not in
That's
your
a different podcast.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's after dark.
Sure. I think I'm waiting for SSA to come out with the Bluetooth RTA, so that when I get a sound quality demo, I can put that on my hard hat.
That's so stupid.
And we can contrast the two. Listening to French cafe music versus GZ or whatever it is.
Is there a standard like I know it's all subjective for SQ, but can you put an RT at the headrest and judge it by that? Something like or is there just no way? It has to be.
They have a class for that.
That's how we judge RTA. The RTA freak out, and we take basically the same stand, just with a different little head on it to put the sensor on for the RTA. you know, and it's 26 inches off the seat, the center of that little sensor is the way it sits. So it's basically right where your head's at. And we play pink noise, 20,000 cycles, and we determine whether your system can play that faithfully and reproduce the frequencies proportionally. Now, it's like a stress test of your system, like where the bass test is one frequency, but a sound quality RTA test is all the frequencies from 20 to 20,000.
That's crazy.
And how proportional they are. And a perfect score is, with the system we have now, is a 40-point scale, and it's a flat line. That means they're all proportional. But that would sound horrible.
Yeah, it sounds like shit. Trust me.
It shows that your system can do it. So if your system can reproduce those frequencies proportionally and accurately with high resolution, then the stretch is it can reproduce music really well if it's tuned properly.
I have a suggestion for next year.
Wait,
because I know you love rule change suggestions.
Well, send me an email.
No, I'm going to say it right here on the air so everyone
send me
can
an email after that.
Everyone send Steve Stearns an email. What is your email, by the way?
I forget.
So I want y'all to change RTA Freakout to gray noise. You probably don't even know what that is. Gray noise. Yeah. Gray noise mimics the equal loudness contour, the Fletcher-Munson curve. So there you go. Instead of it sounding like ass with pink noise, it can sound awesome with gray noise. There you go. Yeah. That way that people don't need two tunes.
Right. Okay, we'll take that.
I can tell you're highly
There's been several suggestions of different types of sources to use.
Gray noise
for RTA. Pink noise is the standard, and so we kind of stick with that. If we had I don't know if we talked about this, Fade, but if we could come up with a robot that would be a sound quality judge and put the ears in the driver's seat and turn it on, and they could evaluate ambience and
all that,
the different tonality things, and it's probably possible to do that.
It's not. You know why? Because I've heard from some of the snobs that microphones cannot hear ambiance, they cannot hear timbre, they can't hear
air. They don't hear a lot of the qualitative things. That's right.
That's right.
So you have to
a lot of the audio fool type adjectives that we hear and see on a daily basis.
Well, the qualitative things, the human parts, the emotional parts, they don't really.
Sure, it's fine for RTA Freakout, but that's why we don't award sound quality.
But if there was a way, let's just say you came up with a sound quality robot that all it did was judge tonality on a 1 to 10 scale, and it has its parameters, and you give it the software and the instructions, and it just pulls these scores out, and that would be valid. It doesn't mean it's going to sound good. It just means, again, that you can do that. It's kind of like an audible trick with your system. Doesn't mean it sounds good until you tune it right.
I mean, I used to like that about SPL and not like that about SQ, but now competing in SQ, I like the human element.
One thing, we've tried to maximize that as much as possible and minimize the subjective part as much as possible by specifically giving tracks that we approve. So the judges listen to the same tracks. We have a pool of tracks that are not only on our disc, the Tantric tuning disc, which is available online for $15 plus $3 shipping.
Tantric.
I have
it. Tantric tuning.
Tantric.
Yeah, it goes on forever.
And it is
one of your songs on it?
No.
It should be.
Man, yeah, well, disappointing.
I've had a movement for one of my songs, which we might do next time. I don't know.
It is also
give me some 20 hertz.
It's also, for those have not heard it, it is the lowest recorded CD in the history of CDs that have been recorded. It's recorded at like minus 50 dB.
On purpose.
Yeah, obviously.
That's not minus.
Holy
50.
hell. I have literally went back to back between the Iasca and Meca disc the other day in the car, and it's like legit 10 dB lower than.
It's about 10 dB difference.
Yeah,
right. Sounds about right. But that's
and it's all it's all resonance. Whatever frequency your car doors resonate at, that's the frequency it's recorded at. Just in case you're curious. Or maybe it's just
maybe it's just you.
I think. All the judges, none of the judges are watching right now, but if they were, they'd be like totally listening for mid-bass resonance and Taylor's shit.
That's a negative on there. If you hear vibrations,
I
don't know, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
any extraneous noise is distortion. Anything.
Yeah,
bad.
and not only do you hear that, but it interferes with hearing the other frequencies. It muddies
That's
things up, so it's not just a deduction for that, but it can really affect you across the spectrum.
it's neat stuff.
Everything interacts. Yeah.
Hang on, we got a question in the troll box, and he said that he'll buy you some nachos in Louisville. Has anyone ever park and
He's
pound
talking to
42
me.
plus? Is he?
Yeah, he's talking to me.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
You're not gonna be in Louisville.
I know.
Do like what the hell is he talking about? 42 plus
Because he was saying
park and pound.
how many 140 plus parking pounds were there? If you knew.
Okay, well, in the history, as far as I can remember, on the meter,
I know two.
Steve Mick was the first.
Steve Mick and Blake Hunt. Blake Hunt did it too, didn't he?
I believe, but not at finals.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but so legit to me, I mean,
Is
Blake
that
Hunt, I
finals?
remember,
He was up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it wasn't
But
at
Steve
finals.
Mick was the world champion with like a 42.4.
That's crazy.
I believe that was several years ago. He's going to be at finals this year, but he's not doing park and pound. He's just doing M5.
Where does he compete at? I never see him. He's
He
just like
hasn't
a
been competing
myth.
much. He's got a
He
job.
is.
He's got a job that takes him all over the country, and
Nah,
he,
quit it, dude. Quit. Just
Mick,
tour
if
the
you're
van.
watching, stop
he
it.
hasn't quit. He's coming back. He's
Just-
got his points.
Actually,
Coming
sell it to
fine.
me. Give me the key.
No,
Give
just
me the
quit.
key.
No, I meant just quit his job. Quit his job
that
and
too,
tour
yeah.
the country
Yeah.
with the van. He'll pay the bills, sure.
Dude, the first time I ever heard Steve Mick
No,
park and pound,
never.
and for anybody watching that doesn't know what park and pound is,
Yeah, explain park and pound, please. Not
It
because he
is-
sucks. No, not you. Let him say it, please.
Me?
you want him?
Yes, please.
Park and pound. Well,
And
we
how did it come out? Yeah,
Well, we started in the early days. It was called Drive By SPL. So
Sorry,
basically,
That's right. I remember that.
I was just gonna
We
say
would-
that I
yeah.
loved how you
I loved it too.
the old videos, dude, just pull up and slam on the brakes. It was so
They're-
awesome.
They weren't supposed to do that. In the old days, they had
Oh.
to keep moving. It was called
Oh.
Drive By. So it's like you're driving down the street. We called it the Drive By SPL parade. So it's like you're driving down the street. You open up your doors and windows, and you go down the street, and you drive by the meter as slow as you can, peak the meter. Okay, so we did that for a while, but then people started stopping at the meter, and so that
All right.
really wasn't as much fun. And the parade aspect really kind of went away. I mean, in the early days, we literally had dance teams that would dance with the cars as they went through the lanes. It was awesome. Let me
That's
tell
funny.
you, it was awesome. It was so cool. I think we have videos of some of that. Then we evolved to doing with the Term Lab. We evolved to doing the average instead of just peak. So we had to run 30 minutes average, and then everybody was stopping in front of the meter. So we just let them pull up and park and pound. That's
Yeah,
the way that
park and
came
pound.
out. So the meter sensor is 6 feet away from the vehicle on the passenger side, 4.5 feet off the ground.
That's crazy.
Okay, same sensor we use for the headrest. So, it's the Term Lab sensor, and turns out still that the peak that really gets it going is around 36 to 42 cycles. It's
Low,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Low.
like you don't have to change anything. You can do SPL and park and pound with the same frequency
love-
if you're tuned for music.
I love park and pound, but
Yep.
I got to tell you, I do
And you
take
have to
it.
play full range. You have to be. We
I-
have to be able to hear the whole system, not just.
Oh, that's right. You have to be able to hear the words, and you cannot have cuss
If there
words.
are words. Yes.
That's right.
And no bad language.
That's right.
Right.
I do take exception to how strict the rules are for park and pound. If you touch that cone, you're gone.
Well, that
You
was
pull
the
in
old days.
too far, and you
No,
need
that
to
was-
back
yeah.
up a minute.
That's what I'm
We
saying.
You're
have
They have it-
gone.
that now.
You
They have
cannot
it
move the
wrong.
mic.
No, yeah, they
dude,
have
I'm
it wrong
telling you.
now.
You're living in the past.
Yeah, I
That was
know.
3 years
Oh!
ago.
Stu tried to get me with that too.
Uh-oh.
Stu tried to get me with that.
Stuart.
No, we don't want you to hit the cone, but if you do, you're allowed a minor touch, and you are allowed to back up and get into space, in place.
Oh! Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Check
We need
yourself,
that,
That is
Stu.
the judge's discretion. Like if you run the judge over in the cone, then he's probably going to disqualify you. But
We need some updates.
Yeah.
Tenfold.
I thought that
Tenfold.
was- I thought-
I'm glad. I'm
I
glad.
thought that was a weird rule. I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
I'm
that shit
just
was
pulling
stupid.
into the lane. Like, what is it? I
Hey, I gotta tell you, for everybody out there watching, I'm telling you, Meca is fantastic with updates, suggestions. They listen, man. Steve and his R&E committee, they listen, and they will, they understand like where you're coming from. Because I'm not talking shit about USAC, because I love USAC. I still love Janice, and I still love USAC. The only reason I don't compete in USAC anymore is because they make me choose between Unified and USAC, and guess who I'm going to choose? Unified. So anyway, it was always a fight. Everything was a fight and a gray area and such and such and blah, blah, blah. But you guys, Meca, dude, I'm telling you, it's like y'all hear what we're saying, competitors, and it's like that doesn't make sense. Sorry, we can't do it. This does make sense. We'll see what we can do. And the changes that I've seen were all for the better, for, you know, fantastic. They benefit the competitor, they benefit the organization as a whole, and I appreciate y'all a lot, I'm telling you.
Well, thanks. You know, I tell people a lot of times, and they'll tell me later that, we get a lot of suggestions, we get a lot of input, especially after finals. I do a call. I say cattle call. Shoot me your stuff. Any ideas you have, we'll go over everything, and we pass them along if they're good. And you can make suggestions, and you may not see your idea exactly like you gave it to me or to R&E, but you'll see it in a form evolved and incorporated into the rule book in a way that you maybe didn't even think about at first. But chances are, if you make a good suggestion, it's going to end up in the rule book, and you're going to see it. You're going to be able to point that and say, I am the person that helped instigate that right there. And this goes on every year. And, we try not to change the rules.
I think I got a couple.
Yeah, well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I know you have at least one. So, no more.
I'm a squeaky wheel, man. I'm a squeaky wheel.
No more input from you.
No, I'm done. Just put me on R&E, and then we'll be done with that.
Well,
are there competitors on R&E?
There are.
That actively compete?
There are some judges on R&E that definitely compete. Mm-hmm. Not many. Most of our judges have gotten the competing Jones out of their system. They're generally a little older. They're more mentors and people that are there. They're not there because of the money. They're not there because of fame they're there because they are part of the community and they want to help. So
I want to do all that. I want to be a part of the community and help and compete.
We need more judges. We need more people to help put on shows. We need more retail stores.
Hey,
what we do?
How do people do that, man? How do they get judge certified? How do they put on shows? Tell the people, man. Okay, what if they don't have Meca in their area?
Well, if you don't have Meca in your area and you want it there, call me and let's talk about some strategies to work with a retail store or a car club or a car show, something that's going on that we can hook up with, even a charity event. We help. I don't know if people understand how much we really help contribute to charities across the country. I mean, it's something I never would have imagined. Tens of thousands of dollars a year being donated to charities through Meca.
That's awesome.
So that's amazing. So we do that to help the community, not just the car audio community, but your community where you live. So let's get involved in your community. And I tell this people all the time, it's not so much they're complaining, but we don't have shows. Help us find shows, man. We can't make shows out of nothing.
Yep.
If you want to be a judge, we do a sound quality. If you want to be a high level sound quality judge and really start earning your chops for that,
or if you're a competitor and you just want to know what the judges are listening for.
That's true. But, I'm addressing more judges now.
Sure.
Just saying. We do our big judge training here in Nashville in February, usually second or third week. And I have to see what's playing at the symphony because we go to the symphony and I try and pick the best symphony show. And we tie it all in with listening and scoring. That's
you score a symphony?
Our judges are scored.
You score a symphony?
We scored in our minds.
What's a symphony score?
99.
199.
Probably about a 9. It depends if they've got the audio system working or if it's just straight up acoustical. Acoustical is probably about a 97, 98. In the Skirmerhorn Symphony Hall here in Nashville is almost perfect. It's like unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Realism and believability is off the charts.
Real. Yeah,
it is real.
Perfect score there. But, no, I mean,
tonality sucks.
I mean, you could. If the audio system's on, it just depends on the sound person. Just like any band, the sound really is. The musicians could be awesome, the singer could be spot on, but if the sound man's not doing a good job, then you're not hearing it right. So their sound system there is incredible. I'd say it's about a $500,000 board with. I think last time I asked, he was using 86 channels.
Good grief!
Just saying. So
hey, we're here in stereo, man. Why you need 86 channels?
Well, they're making everything, and
well, we're trying to get Andy W on so he can explain why we need 27 channels in a car, but he keeps dodging us.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't want to explain upmixing to us.
Illuminati.
Yeah.
Yep. Can you turn
I
it
don't have
off?
answers for that either.
Are you a part of the Illuminati, the car audio Illuminati?
I don't think so. I think I'm probably the exact opposite.
He doesn't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't know what I am anymore. I just know that, I just want to do a good job. And, I've been doing Meca a long time. And everything I do is for the people and for the music. That's
Ask him.
And that's just right from the heart.
About the Illuminati?
Ask him.
I'm too old for any other BS.
Ask him.
I don't know. Can you turn it off if you go to concerts? Can you say, all right, I'm just here to enjoy the show. I don't want to know about this speaker over here beaming, and I don't want to know about time alignment. Are you just constantly thinking?
I can let it go after a little bit, because I'm a sound guy. I have to know what's going on. I'm the guy who's looking around the corner at the equipment rack. Going, what processing are they using over there? I look at the equipment. What guitars are they using? What are the keyboards? What amplifier? I love amplifiers. Are they using Marshalls? Or are they using Fenders? That's what I look. But once I get all that straightened out, it's just like after you judge the car and you're at peace with your score, you close your eyes and I can listen and enjoy it. So that's the way it is. Anytime I do anything, because I actively mix sounds. So I'm using the board. So I can't get out of my mind. One time I was we used to do quite a few shows in the Virgin Islands. So I was at some crazy resort, 5-star resort in St. Thomas, and they provided a massage for me. And I'm not a massage kind of guy. I don't want to be touched or not. Well, generally. So anyway, they had some nice looking girl massage, and I'm going, okay, this could be all right. So I go in there, and she's playing this music, and it's this spacey music, right?
Yes.
And I'm laying on the table, and I'm a musician. I'm not a big music reader, but I see notes, and I know how music works. I'm seeing the notes going in the music. I'm going, oh, stop
Whoa,
it.
she got you hallucinating
music.
music.
Slipped you something in that drink.
Stop, and then I'm going, and she's just using those little speakers that's off to the right, and I'm on the table, I'm on the left.
Yes.
Going, no.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I couldn't relax. I'm going, man, I can't give it up.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's like bass heads when you hear something loud in your house and you run outside to see who it is.
Right?
you hear somebody playing Hotel California live, and you're like, hey.
Yeah, I like that.
He needs to tune down 400 hertz.
You got a business card for
that?
that?
All the time and go boom, boom, boom up and down my road.
You got a business card for that, masseuse?
Yeah.
Well, I think we all need that kind of experience.
That's funny though.
Yeah, it was pretty weird.
That is funny. I'm not gonna lie. When I get a demo of somebody's car, for the first minute or so, I'm like SQ judge,
Yeah, you get
and then
oriented.
I just try to. Where's the center? Where's my boundaries? How's the tonality? And then after that, I'm just try to get lost in it.
Right.
I'm sorry I can't remember his name, but there's a Mazda MP5, I think it is. It's like a van, like a minivan. Anyway, I heard it at Aggieland the year before last, and I gotta tell you, dude, it was transcendent. I got lost. This thing was completely rebuilt. The dash had been lowered and the thing and the stuff and whatnot. And it was a $9,000 worth of black hole in the thing. Amazing. And I can't remember the guy's name, and I'm sorry. Hopefully somebody will shout him out. But I was just, you know how you get sometimes the music that's playing and the how amazing it sounds. And it just got lost, completely lost. I lost the time. And I was I had to kind of shake my head and look over, and I was like, dude, my bad. I completely lost track of time, where I was. The whole thing was amazing. But Aggieland is like that, dude, because it's the best of the best, outside of finals.
Yep.
Actually, the whole SQology tour, amazing.
Yeah, I had at the Tennessee finals last week, a guy, Ken Reed, one of our new members, came up from Alabama. He's got a beautiful truck, and it's really stock. It's very basic on the sound quality part. He's a Street 1, DB1 guy. But he'd never heard a high performance audio system like we got. So I said, go sit in there with Bruce Miller for a little bit. So he sat in with Bruce. I thought he'd be in there about 3-4 minutes. He's in there 20-30 minutes. Then Charles Haley got him there. He was in Charles' car at least 30 minutes. He came out of there, and he's going, I want that.
Right? Start writing checks.
I want that. And he's going, I can't believe it. He's just going, I can't believe it. I've never heard anything like this. Most people don't, because, I love this and this little thing I say, it's like car audio people like us, we're like 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%.
Right.
It's a niche, of the 1% of people out there doing car audio. There probably really are not more than, I'd say 2,500 at the most car audio competitors in the United States at the most.
Yeah. Like legitimate, like
maybe not even 1,500. I don't know.
I wish we had a list for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like if the attendance for like all of the big four plus the couple of full-on legitimate ones. Yeah, I doubt it's more than 1,000.
Yeah, no way.
Well, with us, I mean, I know what we got. We're over 600. So
you have 600
U.S.
Not Meca, but the four.
Oh, the four
Meca.
Total?
No, Meca. Just our membership.
Members. No,
okay.
I'm talking about like finals competitors.
No, finals. We're going to have about 190 cars.
Yeah. So let's assume Drag has the same, and IASC has the same, and then USAC had the same. That's about 1,000.
And there's a lot, and
throw Midwest SPL in there, ISPLL, some of the others.
We get about a quarter of our membership comes to finals. So if we have 600, we're going to get about 150. I mean, that's just been for years. It's been that way.
Yeah, it's because everyone knows what everyone's doing. Half the people can't make the drive. Blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, some people they can't afford it. I mean,
some people just don't.
Some people they just know it's not worth it. It's like I'm not going to place. Or,
right. I'm
sorry, but there are people who don't care, and that's what's really cool about Meca is because of the club and because of the way we have you qualify. Even if you're not necessarily in the top 5, I mean, you can still come and be part of the show and do your thing and do the best you can. And maybe somebody might puke out, and you might get a chance to get 5th or 4th.
That's right. Hey, it happens. I think somebody beat Craig Butler last year, man. I'm telling you, shit happens, dude. Somebody can blow something up, or their processor can go down. I'm telling you, man, you just gotta get there. I tell people this all the time, or I say it
showing up.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Listen, if you put all your money into a damn SPL vehicle and you can't get it to finals, guess what? You don't win. That's what happens. Sorry. You can do 160 and I'm doing 150. If you cannot show up, I win. Suck it.
10-4.
What you want me to do? What you want me to do? I put all my money into my car to make it to finals. You put all the money in your system. I'm sorry you couldn't afford a radiator to get to finals.
T-Fade unplugged.
I'm just saying.
bringing it harsh to the kids.
I'm just saying.
To the kids out
for
there.
real.
Well, it's
you have to make it to the big show, dude.
Right. Exactly what he said. It's a competition. It's a competition.
Yep. There's no certain outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. You can expect the best and you can expect the worst, but you don't know.
Being that SQ is subjective, besides T-Fade peeling off that one time, what's the worst reaction you had to a scoring you've given?
He didn't see that. I don't think he saw that. Or cared.
Cared.
What, somebody's tearing up the score sheet?
Well,
I've seen that.
No.
Yeah, what's the worst?
I've had people cry.
Stop it.
T-Fade cried later.
Not girls either. Although I think I did make a girl or two cry. But not on purpose. I try to be positive and point out the positive thing, but some people take that tonality very personally.
Grown men crying because you didn't give them the score they wanted.
I mean,
are you serious?
They didn't give them the score they wanted. It's just they didn't earn the score they thought they should have got.
That's what I mean. Was it just a bad? Was it just a bad score?
I'm trying to be nice about it. I'm trying to be
That's
nice
fantastic.
About it.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah,
this one.
I've had SPL guys too. Oh, God, I've got to have another. Please, $5. Please, I need one more. It's like crack. I need one more, please.
You know what though? That's
it
passion,
is like crack.
Man.
It
That's
is like
passion.
crack.
We can't make fun of it.
And I go with it too. I mean, I try not to squash it or I think it's cool. It's part. I mean, if we don't have the passion, we really don't have much of anything worth anything.
I'm not kidding. The very first year of World Finals or Finals, whatever, USAC Finals, my very first year.
What was that year? What year was that?
2009, 2010. So I'm by my truck, and my truck happened to be right by like the judging lanes, or whatever. And they were doing the SQ awards, or they were doing the something or another. I don't know what it was, but there was some controversy. And I got to tell you, there was like a legitimate brawl about to bust out. And I was like, dude, what are they yelling about? It was like
that freaking serious,
pushing and shoving and hollering. And I was like looking at these other people. This is my first year at finals. I didn't know how this shit went, dude. And they were like legit about to throw down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Alan Hall was trying to tell. He's like, "That's the SQ guys. They're crazy.
It's a rowdy bunch.
They're all fucking weirdos, man."
Welcome to the Thunderdome.
I didn't know, but dude, for real, it was like craziness. It was like legit.
Well, and I have to say, I'm not saying this is part of what was going on right then, but one thing that I've seen, and people are critical about our sport, we really don't have, as a rule, any prize money to speak of. There are events where prize money is given out, and
Aggieland, shout out.
Come up with it. I can't get people to give me money to give away. Honest to God, I can't, and I can't give away Meca's money because I'm barely keeping this thing going. So we got to keep this thing going. But
what are you talking about? You're not like a millionaire living in a mansion, living off of everyone's entry fees.
No, I wish.
Because I think that's what everybody thinks.
Wish. I mean, no, it's ridiculous. Meca.
I think that's what
everybody thinks. Meca grosses about $120,000 a year.
Well, there you go.
And over 2/3 of that is expenses, and more than that. So
you can buy like a Toyota Camry
with. This is a club. This is not a multi-million-dollar mofo organization here. This is
nice.
A people who are into what we're into. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be $1 million business. I'm not saying we shouldn't have our own TV show and all that sort of stuff. I think we should, and maybe it should be $1 million business. I think I work pretty hard, and I wouldn't mind being a millionaire. I'm a singer-songwriter, man. I'm lucky to make, if I make $20 an hour, I'm happy, So
you got to start putting your CDs in with the Meca memberships. Serious.
I don't like to push that on people. That's really things, and
or make it an add-on at least.
At least one of the songs. On the tuning.
Hey, can you have a stack of them at the booth at finals? I will totally buy. I will totally buy one.
I have 1,000 CDs.
I swear to God, I will buy one when I get there.
They're only $5 right now. They used to be 15, but they're CDs. So now they're $5.
CDs.
45 cents a song. But anyway,
who uses CDs anymore?
Yeah, well, you take it, rip it, and then do what you want with it.
Bluetooth.
I do. I don't even have a way to not play CDs.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. So anyway, no, the thing with Meca is, honestly, I don't want to make a big financial statement about it, but I've invested in our community. I've been lucky in my life that I've been able to make not a big living, but I've been able to be okay doing music. And I just feel like I give back to our community, the sound quality community in particular, because of my orientation as a sound quality judge and an artist and a singer, blah, 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 a guitar player, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, over and above that, I feel the SPL thing, I'm definitely part of that revolution. I don't know if I'm a grandfather of SPL. I don't really think I was. I wasn't a big SPL guy, but I facilitated a fantastic SPL competition program. And again, throwing back particularly to Rick Washington, who helped immensely with that. Okay. And a lot of other good people did too. Our world champions advanced the sport every time they come to a show, and we get louder and louder. I think people are noticing that.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody else does, but when I think Meca, I think Tom McKay, and I think Steve Mick. Like
I think
those.
Joe Alt. I mean, I could just start thinking a lot of people. Bud Ballinger. I mean, my goodness. I mean, we just got so many talented SPL people. Their minds are, they're in another place, man.
I'm telling you.
Seriously.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it.
Well, it's just experience. It's just like anything. Plumber's a good plumber after 15 years because they know how to plumb.
That's right.
The bass
I don't know how to plumb
because he knows how to make bass and he knows how to win contests.
I plumbed it.
Or she.
Hey, Tommy K's he's hanging out with us this year, so I'm gonna have him come and annoy you, even though he's retired.
That's okay. Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah. Lame. He's a lame.
Yeah, he's retired.
He's tall and skinny.
Yeah, he is.
And I do want to give a shout out to our members who've been with us, this 20 years. Chris Gregory is a charter member. Pop Tart, Davey Weil is a member.
Pop Tart Wheel.
Yeah, Pop Tart. Vinny Taylor has been, the backbone of our Sound Quality League program. And somebody I should
Love
give
me
a
some
shout
Vinny.
out there too. He's relentlessly for the sound quality people. One of the
Mr.
best.
Minus 6 dB.
Man, I don't know. He's honestly, he is a rare find. His ears are incredible, and we're so lucky to have him, as a supporter and part of what we do, and is actually, one of the best judges in the world. Just incredible. So, we just, we kind of have our shit together. We're not perfect, and we never claim to be, but we're trying to get better all the time, and we're listening to you out there. And we want you to be involved with what we do. If you like music, if you like bass, if you like car shows with music, that's Meca. That's what we do.
Hey, I want to be a boom and zoom. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
what the hell, man? I've never seen one. For anybody who doesn't know, Meca has a class called Boom and Zoom where you
we could have did it at NOLA.
Race down a quarter mile.
Well, quarter and eighth, we can do any drag strip. We have a formula called the SPLEED formula, SPL and speed.
Yes.
And we have 4 classes based on engine displacement.
Okay? Oh my God.
Yeah, and so the idea, who's the loudest and fastest cars in these classes. So your basic class is a 4-cylinder class. Then your step up would be a 4-cylinder plus power adders and 6-cylinder. Then your next class would be an 8-cylinder class with 6-cylinder power adders. And then your 4th class would be a true boom and zoom car, which is really basically an RX-7 ready to kick ass with a little sub in the back.
Right.
So, you can do about a 35 and do about a 12-second quarter mile, and you could be competitive.
I would love to compete in this class, but obviously Nathan Munson would whip everyone's ass as.
Yeah, there's certain vehicles, but
he's got like an 8 or 7 second car, and they're stupid loud.
I never know. They just pop up with new cars every.
I don't know what the hell's one of those guys. They just do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with Boom and Zoom, and it's
people have actually run that class. Like I've never even seen.
We have to have a drag strip with timing equipment.
We have a couple.
A lot of drag strips won't let us do it.
That doesn't even make sense.
Well, they're old school and they don't get it, But the perfect way to do it is, you come up and you stage, and we put the sensor in your vehicle for 15 seconds.
Yes,
boom, boom, boom.
That's cool.
And then you pull up from pre-stage, you go to stage, and then the timer starts. And you go down the track. We get your timing slip, and then we have the SPLEED formula, and it really works. It's weird, but my background's statistical analysis.
Sure.
College degree thing.
Why wouldn't it be?
So of course. So anyway. It figures out who's the loudest and fastest cars, and you can't be real serious about it. Although the formula works. As far as that goes, it's true to what it is, but it's a statistical model. But if you have fun with it, it's just a blast.
We need to talk to Scotty and get the Street Outlaws guys and put some subs in their cars, and that's what they'll do. Like burnout, burp, launch.
Right. Yeah, we have a deal coming together. I think it's going to work out pretty good with East Tennessee Drift. They're going to put on over 20 events this year. We're going to be working with them at different drag strips and raceways and things like that. So that should be pretty cool, like Middle Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia.
Oh,
so there'll be some boom and zooms there. And plus, we did boom and zoom the last 2 years at the Bristol Dragway.
That's so cool.
That's great. Yeah,
I need to see video of that. I've never seen video of that. I need to see that.
I've got some video. I'll have to look for it. It's awesome, man. We have a video. The heavier vehicles will have more equipment,
right?
So they'll be louder, but they're slower. And then the lighter vehicles will have, they'll have less equipment. And they'll be faster. It's weird how it works out.
Well, it's sort of like back in the day. If you're, SPL and SQ, like a better sounding car. With less SPL, right, versus a louder car with less SQ. So that's fun. Other than it has to be at a drag strip.
Drag strip that'll let you do it.
Just roll race.
Yeah, drag strip will let you do it. That's awesome. So finals is coming.
Matter of days.
Yep. I'm excited. Sort of.
I got right here. See this right here?
Holy crap! What's all that?
That's
about
interest?
190 envelopes. And I got my state record envelopes over here. I got over 300 state certificates I've just made up for all the different state champions. It's awesome. I just ordered about $6,000 worth of trophies. That's my second order.
Jeez.
And I just bought. I will show you here. You're the first folks to see it. I was thinking about revealing this on the podcast. Hold on.
Here we go. Here we go.
Might be gone an extra second. Hold on.
Everyday Audio's exclusive right here. Skip. It's about time.
I'm gonna make it bigger. Wait, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm screwing up.
Uh-oh. We got an exclusive. Don't fuck it up. I mean, don't screw it up. Beep.
I'm going to show you. We have a new cup. Sound Quality League.
Whoa.
The lower classes. We have the Culbertson Cup for the best sounding vehicle in Meca. At finals, the highest scoring sound quality vehicle gets the name engraved on our Culbertson Cup.
Sweet.
Okay, we've been doing that for a number of years. This is our new. It's going to take the place of the Gates Cup we had before. This is our new Gates Cup for the lower classes. So basically, stock, street, and modified street will have their own cup.
Jeez,
so
beautiful.
And these cups are worth, whatever you think Meca's making, I just spent it right there. Because I'm not going to chintz on this. This is real. This is not a cheap. This is a plated silver trophy.
Look, just go ahead and engrave Taylor Fade on that thing right now.
I'd love to see your name on there, Fade. That'd be awesome.
I'm telling you, that thing is going to happen from stock class.
That would be incredible.
Putting everybody on notice right now.
Yep. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that, and we're recognizing the lower classes. It's not all about the highest score. It's about,
that's fantastic.
Doing the most with the least.
Well, yeah, because the other thing is street is your most crowded class, right?
As it should be.
That's right. It should be.
Absolutely should be, yeah.
Because it's basically stock with a DSP.
Basically.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
People who don't want to tear up their stuff or don't have the chops to tear up their stuff or just want to add a tweeter or whatever, change their speakers out and use stock locations.
I mean,
and a DSP. Just OEM integration,
Yeah, I mean, of course, using DSP is awesome, but just for most people, just adding a pair of tweeters on the A pillars.
Yeah.
That is life-changing experience, right there.
It really is.
It just kind of opens things up, and if you do it right and you get your time alignment good and
all
staging, it's like a whole new world,
Anyway, all right, let's wrap this up. You got anything to tell the people out there, man?
Well, just appreciate everybody out there who supports Meca. Our retailers, we have over 100 retail stores in Meca.
Who's your big sponsors, corporate sponsors?
Well, we have over 30 manufacturer members, Pioneer. We have maybe one of the biggest coming on here in the next couple of weeks. It'll be a big announcement if we do. But Orion is our title sponsor for finals.
Awesome.
Audible Physics is our Sound Quality League sponsor for finals. We also have Ohio Generator, Excess Power, and Sundown Audio, our final sponsors. Some of the people ask me all the time, what should I use? If I want to win, what do I use? And I just tell them to go on our website and look at the results and look at what people are using because it tells you what their teams are.
It's that simple.
Sure
you can tell good stuff. I have to.
It's not that simple, but it gives you a good idea.
It gives you a pretty good idea.
Simple.
It really does. Plus, it shows you like the teams that are active. If they know what they're doing, you get on that team, you get some good help.
That's right.
Just want to thank everybody for the support. It's been 20 years. We're going to have a big show coming up here this weekend, and everybody's invited. And even if you're not a Meca head yet, we invite you to look at what we do, and we invite you to join our club and be a part of our club. And if you're a little older, maybe be a judge or an event director. Help us put on shows to expand what we do, expand the sport. And for what's left of this industry, Meca, we can't save it, but we can be a shining star for everybody in car audio. And I think we're doing as good as you can do, considering, limited resources and limited sponsorship, but we're getting bigger and we're getting better. And we're not going to stop trying to do better. That's what I got to say. Okay, I appreciate you guys too. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was a pleasure, and I appreciate you taking time out because I know you're very, very busy week before finals. That's right. Back to the envelope.
Got some stuff I got to do.
Hey, I got to get out in the garage and finish my car for your envelopes right now.
I don't have to do nothing.
We're gonna go finish something too. All right, you guys.
All right,
appreciate it, sir.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys.
All right.
Thanks so much.